guys, I'm back here with my Jeep. The other day the check engine light came on, and if you check the codes by turning this 3 times, it'll show you the code here, which shows P0700, but that's a transmission code, which means that's not displaying it correctly, so you have to take it into a shop to get it checked. So I took it over to O'Reilly's and read the codes and ended up getting P0760 and P0770. One's the shift solenoid and the other one's another solenoid in the transmission. So I did a bunch of research, and I believe it's the solenoid pack that needs to be replaced, which is like a $200 part. So I'll be showing you how to get that taken out and replaced with the new one. So first off, as always, we'll unplug the battery, negative battery terminal. This will help to clear out the codes as well, so you can actually drive the car after you've replaced the solenoid pack. You're going to need one of these jack stands, a jack, a pan to catch all the transmission fluid, maybe some wrenches, ratchet set. This is a 1/4 of an inch drive ratchet set, and then this one is a 1/4 inch torque wrench. Transmission is very picky, so you have to be very careful with it, so it's good to have one of those. And then a screwdriver set. I believe the only bit that we're going to use for this is going to be a Torx 25, but just in case, it's good to have the whole set. WD-40 to loosen up the bolts, replacement transmission fluid, ATF4, replacement filters for the transmission. There's 2 filters that you need to replace, and this kit comes with the gasket as well, so that's always good. So there's this flat filter, and there's a filter that looks more like your oil filter. And then obviously the replacement solenoid pack. And if you have an older model, there's 2 versions of this. One has a white plug and the other one has a black plug. The white plug is the newer version, and if you get a white plug version on a car that has a black plug, then you also have to get this plate, this adapter plate, to make it fit. So let's go ahead and get started here. Make sure your car is in the park position, that your brake is on, and then just jack up. Now that the car is lifted up, if you look under here, the transmission pan is right there. If you look at this barcode, you'll be able to tell there what type of transmission your car has. So this has a 4.5 RFE transmission. Make sure you are aware of which transmission your car has when you're buying the solenoid pack, because if you buy the wrong one, it's obviously not going to fit. So get under here and get your WD-40 and just spray the bolts so that they're not super tight. There should be 14 or 15 bolts around. After waiting for a few minutes, just spray all over. Grab a deep socket or a normal socket, it doesn't matter. This is an 8mm socket with your ratchet here and an extender. And just take out all the bolts around the pan. Make sure that you've got your pan or your liquid holder down here ready to catch all the transmission fluid that's going to come out. And just get that taken off slowly. You want to take the back end first so it starts leaking out, and then take out everything slowly from there. The fluid's dripping down. I had to use a pry bar and then hit it with another pry bar or a hammer to get the pan loosened up enough to drain it out. So I'll just wait for it to drain out most of the fluid there. 15 volts. And then I'll continue taking off the bolts. The pan is completely off now. And while you're waiting for everything to drain, be very careful when you're taking the pan off. As you can tell there, I kind of made a mess. I wasn't very careful with it. But while that's draining, go ahead and use a knife or something and scrape all of this off. All of this sealant or gasket off of the transmission pan, as you can tell there. Because we'll need that clean to be able to put it back on. Take the filter out. So in my screwdriver set here, I had a T25 bit here. And there was also this attachment that I use for it. This is a magnetic end. And then I just used one of the sockets here from that kit. It fits that. And that way I can take out the filter. That's a T25 Torx bit. And then you just need to take off this one bolt right here. After you have that one, and that'll get this flat bolt out. You can just wiggle this around and it should come out. Be careful when you take it out, unlike me, because there is fluid in it and it will leak out everywhere. I completely forgot that that was filled up with more fluid. We'll just leave that there. So yeah, as you can tell there, just before you take out all those bolts, there's a ton of fluid in there. Climb under here, under the driver's side, and right over here where you see this label for the transmission, you should see that plug, this plug right here. You need to pull down on this latch and then get this plug out. You may need to use a screwdriver or something to go underneath it and pull it up. But just make sure you get that unplugged before you take out taking this plug out. 6 bolts. Right here, there's a little latch that you need to press down and then just take it out slowly. There, you should see that it's out. Alright, next we need to take out these bolts that are holding in the valve body. They're all the same as the ones that you used here. So it should be a 8mm socket. And there's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then one over here, 6. And those are all the ones I see, so take those 6 out and we'll get this whole thing removed. 6 bolts. And here's the valve body taken out. After you take out the 6 bolts, it's not like it's gonna fall right down. You will have to wiggle it around to get it out. So just be careful, just wiggle it around with one hand and hold one hand up against it, or up against it like this, and wiggle it around, and then it should come loose. And then you can take it out. It probably weighs about, I don't know, 20 pounds or so. So just get that taken out, and then we need to get this old solenoid pack off and replace this this plate here with the new one. Flip the valve body around so it's this way. You'll see these two bolts right here that don't match up with anything else, and then you'll see this line of bolts right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it'll go up here. So you need to take out all of these bolts right here from this line, all of these bolts, and those are all 25 or T25. All those bolts, you should have 15s, and they're all taken out from, again, right there, this line under these two, and then just straight up. And you can flip this around. Now you should be able to just lift this up. And this is the old solenoid pack, which we need to replace. So just set that aside. But first off, we need to replace this plate with the new one. This off, you need to take off this shoulder screw and this one. Looks like, let me see what they are. This is a T25 and this is also a T25, so those are all Torx 25 as well. Here's the old plate and here's the new one. It shows here in this paper that came with it. The only real difference is that this little hole is a little bit deeper on the new version. So I guess that makes a big difference. So better safe than sorry. Just go ahead and put this back in there, and then just slide it all the way back. That way it's in the park position, and then just tighten this one back up. And this other one needs to be tightened to a specific amount, which is, if I can find the document here, I believe it's 40 inch-pounds is what it should be. So get those two tightened. So this is what it should look like. We passed 35 and we put it up to 10 right on the line, so that should be at 40, and then we just tighten this back up, and then we can use the normal Torx bit here. So here is your tightening it up. Now we just need to put the new solenoid pack in. Remember, you don't have to replace that plate if you bought a solenoid pack that has the black plug. It's the older version. This is the updated version, which is why you have to use an adapter for the old valve bodies. But if you buy one of those that looks just like that, then you don't have to replace the plate. So just go ahead and set this in here. You need to make sure this pin here is aligned over here. And then everything should just fall in place. And then flip it over carefully, and we'll tighten the 15. Over. I'm going to put these over here. 2 bolts back in first that are next to the arrows. And you need to tighten all of these 15 screws at 50 pounds per inch. So get this adjusted to 50, and then just use the Torx 25 bit to tighten all of the screws again. You want to tighten these two, and then I don't believe you have to, but I think you should just cross thread. So add a bolt here, then add one here, one here, one here, one here, one here, and so forth. And just so everything's seated evenly there. That you've got the solenoid pack back in, the next thing you need to do is crawl under here and scrape up all of the gasket material from the pan here. And just get everything cleaned up so that we can put everything back together. Okay, after you have the whole edge cleared off, you can take out the filter. I've been trying for the past half hour or so to take out that filter, but it just doesn't seem to want to come out, so I've given up on that filter. I just won't replace it. I'll just replace this other filter here. Now to put this one in, you're gonna have to take this little fitting off. Put that fitting in this hole up here, and then just tap it with a hammer or a socket, just so it's in there snug. Make sure you put that in first, and then we can put the valve body back and line it up with the shift lever here, and then we can put the filter back, put the gasket back around the edge, cover it up, and then refill it back. Now we need to get this valve body back in here. There's that little latch right there, which needs to line up with this. Make sure this is in the park position, so it should be all the way at the end there. That little metal piece should be all the way at the end. And then just lighten it up and push it back in place and put all the bolts back in. Now you need to tighten these 6 bolts up to 105 inch-pounds. So just use your torque wrench and get those tightened up. Before you put everything back together, it's good to test this out just to make sure it's all working correctly. So put your keys in, just turn the ignition on, and then make sure you're able to feel the plate moving as you shift. Now just go ahead and get the filter and put that back in place up there. Just wiggle it in place, line it up here, and put the bolt back in place back here. After you have all the gasket material cleared from the pan and the bottom of the car, go ahead and get your gasket that came with the filter, if you ended up buying the same filter kit that I have here. And then just put in a couple or a few of the screws into the holes just so it's all lined up. And then just put it back on the car and tighten all the bolts back up. Okay, so now we've got the pan back in place, and we just need to plug that connector back in. It's getting pretty dark, so you can't see it, but just plug that connector back in, and then we just need to fill the pan back up with fluid. So go ahead and lower the car, and then reconnect the battery terminals, and then in here take this out and fill up the transmission fluid again. Add about 4 quarts of transmission fluid. If you don't have a funnel that fits that, You can use a piece of cardstock paper like this and just wrap it up, stick it in there, and then you can pour the transmission fluid in. After that, let it sit for a few minutes so all the fluid goes all the way down, and then we'll measure it and see if it needs more. So I ended up adding about 5 quarts of fluid, and the code is still there, which means I need to take it over to O'Reilly's and clear it out and see if that fixes it.
System ready.
Kind of jerks a lot when I shift, but hopefully this will fix it. I'll go and clear out the codes and see if that does it. We've cleared out the codes and the check engine light is gone. Now we just need to drive it around and make sure it doesn't come back on.